This is Agenda Awani with me, Naila Huda. Today we're taking a closer look at the energy market as the global energy markets face increasing uncertainty. We're also looking at Malaysia taking crucial steps to addressing this uncertainty and how to future-proof its energy markets. And this includes the natural gas roadmap potentially introduced and also potentially liberalising the energy markets. But what does this actually mean, especially for consumers, for the industry and also for regulators? How would Malaysia strike this balancing act between fairness and affordability? Joining us today to help address some of these questions, we have joining us Khairulanwar Zakaria, Secretary General of the Malaysian Gas Association, and Rumaizi Halim, Strategic Planning and Communication Director of Suruhanjaya Tenaga. Thank you so much for joining us today. We want to, of course, look at what this actually means and unpack whether Malaysia can actually balance competition with fairness, with affordability. But perhaps we'll start with, from a regulatory standpoint, what this actually means and what constitutes a successful liberalised gas market in Malaysia. How does the Energy Commission measure progress towards this vision?
What constitutes a successful liberalised gas market in Malaysia? I think the initiative to liberalise gas market, the key is holds actually at the when we published the Gas Supply Amendment 2016. That's where the key is, and the way we are taking it into the market is that we are really looking into the progressive modes of it. So if the question is what measures of progress and what not, I think from the ST standpoint or Energy Commission standpoint, a successful liberalised gas market delivers, number one, a reliable and competitive price gas. So it is supported by a framework that ensures transparency, competitions and long-term investment, while safeguarding the national energy security. So on that mode, if I can summarize actually, we are talking about first is the healthy competition across the value chain. With active participation from multiple shippers. Shippers, we term it as a shippers, actually these are the entities who actually buy and sell gas. And infrastructure players. So this is in our situation right now, the infrastructure gas is basically, we're talking about regas terminals, the transmission pipe gas and also the distribution pipe gas. So in doing this, reducing reliance on any single dominant parties. So that's when we talk about the healthy competition. Number two, we're looking at transparent and non-discriminatory access to the gas infrastructure. Since some of the infrastructure, we actually recognize it as a monopoly player, so it is important to make sure that this access to this infrastructure is made available to the market. If we don't do that, then if nobody can actually access that, only one or two parties can access that exclusively, then the idea of promoting competition is going to be very, very difficult. And the third, of course, market reflective pricing. That is also something that needs to be in place. Otherwise, no entities, no business would buy gas at a high price and sell gas at a lower price. So market reflective pricing is also important. And of course, transparent access to market data is also important. This is because when the business is actually engaging into the market, the right information at the right time is critical. Otherwise, it's very difficult for the business entities to actually make decisions.
Of course, we want to hear from the industry perspective, but just on that note, you know, you're saying a healthy competition, but what I'm hearing and what people might potentially hear, of course, are rising gas prices. That would be the immediate concern, right? So how do you think you can find this balance between calming some of these fears, but at the same time sending the right market signals to producers, to shippers, consumers, as you say? You know, it's quite a balancing act here. There's a lot of concerns for sure.
Yeah, of course. That's the whole idea of making the market competitive, is so that the consumers, the end users, will get the best of the price. You know, I give you an example. For example, if we look at the telecommunications, for example, So previously, when we have only one single entity, it's very difficult, for us to determine what is the right market price. Now that telecommunication has many providers, as a consumer, we have that choice. If you don't like with this particular service provider, then we move to the next one. So I think that options to consumer to choose is the key to make sure that whatever gas is supplied into the market is actually at a very, very competitive pricing.
But with some safeguards in place,
of
right?
course.
Yeah. What will be some of these
I
measures?
think, of course, our intention is always to make it market driven. And of course, when it comes to safeguarding the consumers, there are elements that we can look into. But I think it's not fair for me to discuss it openly. But the assurance is this: as regulator, it is our priority is always the well-being of the consumers. So in that mode, so there are a few steps in place that we will introduce when the complexity of the market picks up at a certain level. And I think if I were to share what happened, for example, in UK during the crisis, during the gas crisis, when the price of gas is actually goes very, very high, then the government or the regulator steps in to do a price capping. That to ensure that at the end of the day, the consumer is protected. So similar arrangement can be introduced when we come into that situation.
Debatable. I remember paying my gas bills in the UK. It was quite painful, but hopefully we won't get to that. Now, of course, we want to hear from an industry perspective. What do you think this means for the industry, a successful, liberalised, healthy gas market?
Maybe I should try to put a little bit of context here. In terms of why, first, do we need this so-called liberalised market? Yeah? So, first of all, I think we have to be honest that where we are today is not the same as where we were maybe 10 or 15 years ago. So, the difference is that as the country's population and economic growth continue, I think there's ever increasing demand for energy. So, I think just to give a little bit of context, I think from 2025, the demand of gas in terms of billion standard cubic feet per day, based on projection that I think we have is actually growing from 2.4 billion standard cubic feet per day, and by 2030 it's going to be 5 billion standard cubic feet per day. So it's double in a space of just 5 years. So at the same time also we have to also realize that as our production, indigenous gas, become more matured, so I think the gas production is also declining. So more and more, I think we have to actually rely on import to fulfill the growing gas demand as a result of not only growth in terms of demand, but also in terms of reducing the indigenous or domestic production. Yeah. So when you talk about reliance on import, so there's always the need for us to make sure that we have the right price signal to attract the suppliers to supply the gas to the country. As we know, when we do any form of imports, you are competing not only locally or regionally, we are competing at the global level. Yeah? So the price, I think the right price signal will have to be there to attract the supply to come in. As far as I think perspective relating to the so-called a good liberalised market, I think as mentioned by Encik Rumaizi just now, it has to be something that is open, it has to be something that is transparent, and also encouraging more and more participants into the market. Yeah, so this is really important because when you have competition in the market, I think you will have a much better products that is being offered in the market. I think Mr. Rumaizi mentioned about telecommunication. It's almost the same. So when you start having competition, people will get creative. They will offer different products. So at the moment, we can probably see gas as a very simple product. But when the competition come in, people will start to be creative. They will offer different tenure, in terms of, you want gas for 1 month or 3 months or 6 months, which is currently not in place. At the same time also, they can also provide choice in terms of what kind of pricing choice that you want. You want something that is fixed, something that is variable, half variable. So all these things are actually choices that will eventually make the market more efficient. And with the efficiency, we hope to see the price level to be something that is more, I would say, more reflective of the market, and also making sure that we have sufficient supply of gas coming into our market.
Rumaizi did touch a little bit on safeguarding the market, sort of having this balance between regulations but also healthy competition. How do you think that balance should be struck? This balance between regulatory safeguards in place but also ensuring healthy competition?
Again, I think we have to probably look at the more advanced market in terms of how do they handle this thing. I think we can say that our market is probably at the infancy stage. We are just trying to make a progressive step towards a liberalised market, and there's still a lot of things that needs to be done to make sure that this balance is somehow struck between having a open market and also protecting the end consumer. So at a different stage, I think different things can be introduced. So as when we look at the more advanced market, it is more light-handed intervention from the regulators. So the regulators would probably come in when there is probably maybe a significant disruption in the market, whereby we mentioned about the so-called Ukraine war, which has really shoot up the price beyond expectation. And that's where I think the regulator would step in and make sure that there is some form of capping is in place, and in doing so protect the end consumer. But in between that, there's also this movement towards initially probably more regulatory intervention is required, but as the market become more mature and more maybe they become more used to the kind of regulation, so normally the regulatory would step out and let the market dictate the kind of I think rules that is being played in the market.
Ms. Rumaizi, again, we're going to go back to the question of perception, because when you're saying light-handed regulation, I think the immediate reaction from the public is, again, that concern, that fear that perhaps the government is just letting go of their responsibility in managing essential services and goods. How would ST manage this kind of perception and this fear?
Well, I did not disagree with him. I think once we reach a certain complexity and efficiency in the markets, this is where then the regulator would actually have a lighter touch on the markets. The idea of regulating is to make sure that there is sufficient efficiency in the markets. So whenever the market is not efficient, then only the regulator will step in and do whatever regulatory tools that we have to make sure that the market continues to be efficient. This is important because at the end of the day, we talked about earlier about the choices of the consumer. It needs to be there. And secondly is that the right competition practice would ensure that the consumer will always get the best of pricing and services, not just pricing. It's also end of services. So I think it's important to have that view in mind in managing the markets. If I were to share, for example, we actually have a success story. This is not new, as what mentioned. We have the law being enacted, being in 2016 and being effective on the 16th of January 2017, if I'm not mistaken. So we have gone through that progress, and effectively on the 1st of January 2022, we actually make the distribution market contestable. And because of that, Previously, we only have one suppliers, and today I think we have more than 5 suppliers in the markets. And the consumers are actually very active in terms of playing their roles to make sure that the market continue to be competitive. That comes back to the idea of choices. If you have choice, then it's good for the markets. So I think we continue to do that. And we have done it for the distribution. So now we, like I said earlier, we are taking the modes of progressive. Because personally to me, liberalization is a continuous effort. It will never end. Once we step in, it will continue to be there, regardless whether the market is mature or not, it will continue to be there. So we are in that stage, the infancy stage where we have started. Now it's pick up. So one sector of the market has already been opened. Now we're looking into a greater markets to be open as well.
You touched a little bit on having some regulatory tools to safeguard some of these volatility, these hikes. Do you think, as you said, we're still at the infancy stage, but do you think that we are prepared from a regulatory standpoint? Do we have sufficient regulatory tools, or is there more that's needed to be done now? Some regulatory shifts or reforms that needs to be done now in order to move towards this greater liberalization.
Yes, spot on. The main rules which is stipulated in the ACTA or in the Act, the Gas Supply Act, is the competition provisions. So basically, as long there are 2 parts to it. So number one, we talk about the abusing the monopoly position. The other one is we talk about the agreements that is unfair. So this will be the 2 things that we'll be looking at, because that is a mandate given to us to look into. So I think that's one of the tools that we'll be using. Other than that, then we are actually also looking into the organized or the market's behavior. Where is this moving as far as efficiency is concerned. So we have gone through a process of, for example, a single services, to now we are exploring multiple services to be introduced in the market. So single services means it's a term contract, 12 months, for example. Now we are looking into a smaller portion, whether we can introduce a smaller, shorter contracts. For example, if you want to use it for 2 weeks, what will be the terms that will be made available to the markets? If you want to use it for 3 months, what will be the terms? So these are the things that is already in process. We are working on it, and once it is introduced, then it provides a lot more flexibilities in the markets.
And just on that point, your opinion, looking at the Malaysian gas industry, are they operationally, commercially ready for a more open and competitive market structure?
Well, I think the short answer is yes, definitely. I think the gas industry is not an industry that is new. I think we have started the gas industry way back in the early 80s. So I think one of the key ingredients for the industry to continue to grow is having sufficient infrastructure. And over time, I think the gas infrastructure in this nation has been enhanced in terms of capacity and in terms of optionality. So we used to be importing some gas through pipeline from Indonesia and some part of Thailand previously, and now we have what we call it as regasification terminal that allow us to actually accept gas in the form of liquefied natural gas, LNG, from many other suppliers in the world. So I think as far as market is concerned, infrastructure, I think we are there. I think we are also very lucky to have very capable players in the market. I think the like of Petronas has always been the main party who provide investment to the gas infrastructure. I think we have to give credit to Petronas for that. But moving forward, I think when we talk about market liberalization, it's more of the commercial and economic aspect that we need to actually work on in terms of making sure that all this infrastructure, access to all this infrastructure can be made, you know, in a probably level playing field. Everybody can actually get access to it. And at the same time also, I think we probably can work in terms of making sure that the you know, price part of the equation is also somewhat reflective of the global market price. So again, the short answer, yes, I think we are prepared for it. We need to probably take some, you know, some progressive step. We cannot do this overnight, but I believe this is something that is no longer nice to have. We must have it, because without all this effort, I think we will put the supply of gas to the country at risk.
If I may, just a little bit to add on that point of readiness of the markets. I think, as what been mentioned by Kezak, since the 80s, the only entity that works on gas is Petronas. And then in the 90s, we have an entity called Gas Malaysia that's actually played a role in distribution the gas, a low pressure system. So it has been there since then until 2017. So I think one of the challenges that we are facing in the market is that whether the business have sufficient capacity and capability to start dealing commercially on gas. Because all this while it's actually only two entities that actively working on that. So I think on that note, we need to also give a little bit of time for the business to be to adopt to this new open market environment. I think that is important, and that's why from a strategic point of view at Suruhanjaya Tenaga, we are actually opening up first phase is distribution, which is a smaller market. It's a lot easier to play with, and I think it's been good, you know, because now we have more players in that market. So I think that's just a note on readiness. Yeah. So moving forward on the readiness, as what we mentioned by Kezak, is that the idea of started to opening up, and one of the entities that we are put forward to allow opportunities to be picked up by others is, for example, the development of regas terminal. Previously, it's only Petronas that has the rights and the capabilities to do so. Last month, we had an engagement with the markets, with the potential developers, in terms of, you know, the possibilities of building a new facilities. So, surprisingly, we have a lot of interest from the markets, saying that, you know, these are something they are looking forward to, and these are something that they can develop. So we're looking at that progress, and we're quite happy in terms of what's happening in the market right now. So it's not just about dealing commercially on the sellings of molecules of gas. Now parts of the infrastructure is also made available to the market for people to participate.
Something that the both of you seem to agree on is that it's not overnight. It cannot be done overnight. It's a long journey ahead towards liberalisation, of course. But, you know, just to be a devil's advocate here, perhaps we could even look at this as sort of occurring in a cyclical nature. You referred to the UK energy market before. Having been there, we saw energy prices shot up after the Ukraine war, and now there's a lot of talk about renationalizing the energy market there. So it could be cyclical in that nature. You know, your thoughts on this? It's not going to be easy. Do you think it's going to be perhaps, you know, perpetual, or there's going to be bumps ahead? Yeah,
I mean, when it comes to liberalisation, there are many options, many models that we can choose. There are, you know, in European, mostly they talk about really open markets. There is also markets where it's actually open, but it's being managed. There are, you know, plus and minus of all which model that we want to use.
Are we looking towards something that's a bit more hybrid, maybe?
I think what we're looking at, a model that is workable for Malaysian economy. I think that is supposed to be the priority. What works for us? We can't simply take, if it works in UK and bring it up here, it might not work here. We cannot take something from US or European countries or Netherlands, you know, oh, this is a good model, then we can bring it here. I think that would be, we need to be careful on which model that we want to select. So I think, yeah, it's potentially to you know, to the public, we may call it hybrid, but the fact is that it's not going to be something yang, what do you call it, you know, open. That's why we start first with a very small scale and then we scale it up. I think it's important that we don't shock the market. Once we shock the market, then it's going to go haywire, and the price can go high, very, very high. So I think that's one thing that from Suruhanjaya Tenaga we're really careful when it comes to deploying the policies into the market.
We have just about a minute left, but perhaps you can share some final thoughts.
Okay, I think, you know, when you talk about you know, all this so-called disruption in the market, there's always disruption in the market. But what happened in Europe is probably something that highlight the weakness probably in the market structure. And I think what the regulator there are doing are actually doing some tweaking. They are not actually moving back, but it's just, you know, tweaking as far as, you know, maybe putting in certain guardrail somewhere or certain cap, just to make sure that, you know, this so-called spike, it will not hit the end customer really hard. But, you know, as far as I think last word is concerned, I think, you know, whatever that we are doing today is something that is necessary. I'm not saying that it's going to be smooth sailing or painless, but it's going to be painful, obviously, because I think our market has always been distorted by subsidies for a very long time. But I think what we need to do is to take the brave step, and this step is actually necessary not only for us but also for the next generation. If we are not doing it today, I think our next generation will be the one who will bear the brunt of actually paying, you know, sky high energy price, and I don't think that is a responsible thing to do. And I believe the government is aware of that, and we are moving together. We are helping the government to move into the direction of gradually liberalizing the market, with the hope that eventually the benefit of liberalized market will be something that is beneficial for the people of the country, not only now but into the future.
So a slow and painful but necessary journey ahead. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. A very fruitful discussion, I believe. We got a lot of insights from the both of you. Thank you for joining us, Rumaizi Halim from Suruhanjaya Tenaga and Khairulanwar Zakaria from Malaysian Gas Association. That's all we have on Agenda Awani. With me, Nala Huda. We'll catch you another time.